Good evening and welcome to episode 137 of Rickcast. Yes, I managed to fix my microphone before we came on air. And the great microphone struggles that I have been having, there is hope on the way. The first of the month when it comes up, right? Because I'm like Bone Thugs and Harmony. It's the first of the month. When the first of the month comes by, I'll be able to purchase a newer camera, and the camera I'm going to be buying, besides following me around like a cursed Johnny Five, will not have a microphone. And then once that doesn't have a microphone, it should default to this one, and I won't have that problem anymore, and that'll be fantastic. But you don't need to worry about that. Welcome to Rickcast, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Thursday, the 26th of June, 2025, the midst of summer. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday, June 26th. Whatever you may be doing, however you may be doing it, we have a good show for you, as always, lined up, entertaining as always. SCOTUS gets a pro-life, hands out a pro-life win. Obviously, we're going to celebrate it. That is a good thing, but it is not the be-all, end-all, and it is only a stepping stone. It should not be celebrated as an ending, simply because we shouldn't have to be relying on SCOTUS for these things. We should be doing this at the grassroots level. And I know women in the conservative movement want to tell you, well, you just leave it alone. It's not a winning issue. I don't give a crap. I don't care. That's that. When they have the phrase, is this the hill you're willing to die on? Yes, that's correct, Catholic Jedi. Winning for now. It is winning for now. The problem with precedent, and it doesn't matter if it's abortion, gun rights, whatever the case may be, even the same-sex stuff, it can always be reversed if it's not law. Hell, if it is law, it can be overturned or reversed. Nothing is solid or permanent as long as we go by SCOTUS decrees, despite the fact that most of the population believes that foolishly. We've got a Mideast ceasefire update. Guys, I am the only one, me, maybe Alex Jones, a couple of the other people, everybody on the right, and that means your main streamers as well. Tim Cast, Quartering, Louder with Crowder, all those guys are like, yeah, the war's over in the Middle East. Yay! And I hope it is too. But for me, I'm seeing signs on the wall that Trump is going to get dragged back in. And what have I been saying for the last couple days? The problem is that Trump gave Bibi the taste. He gave him a taste. He just gave him a taste for the glory. He just gave him a taste. He gave him a little bit of the taste of bombing Iran, and Bibi and the military-industrial complex, which includes the Uniparty here in these United States, will not stop now. It's like blood in the water, and I've already laid out. I think Trump believed that if he just bombed Iran one time, he could kind of just set everything, be like, all right, they got bombed, you shut up, everybody be calm and just go back to their corners. Not when you're dealing with an Israeli government that is hand in hand with the military-industrial complex that has been desperate to invade Iran. And just before I came on air, the Israelis, along with Lindsey Graham and Murphy, I think his name is, the moron senator from Connecticut, they're all saying, despite what Trump administration is saying, they're all saying, yeah, the Iranians still have nukes. Trump and everybody's like, most explosive ordnance ever, blew everything up. It's so good, obliterated, boom, boom. The Israelis are like, yeah, by the way, they still have stuff. And anybody with a brain cell could have told you this is going to happen. Maybe they'll push it off. But now that this whole ball has been started, as we've talked about in previous shows, if you look at history and history books, if you look at 9/11 and the Iraq War, if you were to read it in a history book, it would be a couple lines that separate it. It wouldn't be years. It wouldn't talk about the years that went on between the two, or the Civil War, or World War I, or World War II, or the American Revolution. If you read the American Revolution, the way it's all scrunched together, the fact is, we're seeing that in real time. The fact that, they're going to say October 7th, to June 21st or whatever it was, to whatever the next event will be. And so we're going to talk about that. Pope Leo XIV affirms celibacy. Just want to talk about that real quick, considering people are talking about the fact that there is going to be a shortage of priests. Right? We're not ordaining as many, or if we are in places like Charlotte, we're, ripping the rug out from under them because of the way the bishop is acting. And so it always comes up, well, why don't we just let priests marry? Why don't we just let priests marry? And I've heard Protestants and people outside the faith say, oh, I'd be more open to the Catholic faith if, they allowed priests to be married. And then they always try to say, because, of the scandal, even though the Southern Baptist Association, they had their own scandal that nobody talked about, and all their priests can get married. So I just wanted to talk about that as well. And then finally, Rachel Zegler with the drama. Rachel Zegler with the drama had to just talk about how she's a victim. And she really is, like, she is the 100% example of modern women, and I feel bad for modern men, because that is right. That's exactly it. They always try to say stuff like, oh, well, if priests could get married, then that would never happen. And it's like, well, the Southern Baptist Church, they marry, and they had a 700-person list that nobody talked about when they dropped that. That's because my evangelical brothers and sisters, I love y'all, but you're not as important because you don't stand in the breach like the Catholic faith is. The Catholic faith built the West. The Catholic faith defends the West. Despite everything Pope Francis tried to do, the Catholic Church remains the bedrock of Western civilization and is still standing in the breach between Western civilization and a complete and utter downfall. So it is what it is. So it's, we'll get into all that. It looks like you guys are going to be interested about talking about that. Of course, this is my double dip night, where I'll be joining Steve Cunningham at 8:40 Eastern time tonight for News with the Pew, which will be 7:40 for me because I live on God's time, which is Central, not you heathens that live on the Eastern seaboard. Anyway. And then, so we're going to talk about that. We have a couple things to get into as well. Also, the next director of the Bond movie at Amazon MGM Studios has been announced. I actually think it's an intriguing choice, because he's a great filmmaker. It's Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. I know there's a bunch of different ways to say his name. That's the best way I'm going to say it, so you're going to have to deal with it. Denis Villeneuve he's the director of Sicario and the Dune movies and Arrival, a lot of great films. A lot of his films are they're well shot. They're beautifully composed because he's a visual director. He's not a great storyteller. So we'll see. And that's interesting because he's going to start shooting Dune 3 very soon. So we're probably 2 years away from the next Bond film. But the fact that they're trying to establish this now, the biggest thing everybody's waiting on is Bond, right? Who is Bond going to be? And that's kind of like everybody's holding their breath on that. So we'll talk about that as well when we get to the entertainment section here on Rickcast. But it's going to be a good show. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight on this Thursday, guys. The world is serious. We are not. Even though we can't get serious sometimes, we talk about serious stuff. Life, nobody gets out of life alive, essentially. So might as well enjoy it while we're here. So let's get to a couple of opening acts while we're here. This first one is interesting. And I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people are not going to bring you in. And that's why you watch this show. Because even though I'm goofy, I give you insight that a lot of people don't. And I tend to be pretty on par with it. So this first one right here from Mr. Guns and Gear, shout out, awesome dude, Mr. Guns and Gear. 4 teens, quote unquote, were arrested for removing a pride flag or pride flags in Atlanta. So this is what that happened. The Atlanta Police Department said it was considered a hate crime for removing these pride flag decals because they were slashing the pride flags with knives. And now, of course, if you don't know, Atlanta is essentially the home base, the central hub of the Black community's LGBT MAP. Like, it is headquarters for them. Atlanta is the headquarters for the Black LGBT MAP community. And it's a big deal because it's an urban city. It's still technically quote unquote Pride Month. So everybody's kind of saying, I can't believe you're doing such a thing. I can't believe such a thing is happening. Here's my 2 cents on this. First of all, you can burn an American flag, but not a gay pride flag. And I know there's I think he put the news story in there? No, I think let me see how long they're actually going to be put in jail for this. Pride flag Atlanta. Let's see if we can get to that. I thought Mr. Gunziger put that. There's actual criminal charges that are being followed on this. Let me see here. Arrested for ripping pride flags, charged with obstruction, criminal damage to property, conspiracy, and prowling. They're also facing the possibility of hate crimes, which would be 10 years behind bars. 10 years behind bars. Now, Atlanta is not a safe city, so the fact that they had a manhunt for these people is ridiculous. Now, here's what I will tell you. Here's the insight that I will give you. And you can agree with me or not. Let me know in the comment section down below. Youth already, Gen Z, Gen Alpha has at least on the male side, has been turning away from this movement, right? Same-sex marriage, all this kind of stuff, the trans issues, blah, blah, blah. Men have been turning away. They've been returning to God. Stuff like this will only radicalize younger generations more. And I was saying this 2 or 3 years ago because everybody's like, oh, they indoctrinate your kids at the schools. The issue is teenagers, male and female, are rebellious. And it was easy in the 2000s to say, oh, we're the oppressed. Look at us. You know, if you, the LGBT, oh, we're oppressed. They hate us, blah, blah, blah. They were the underdog. Teens, because of their mindset or whatever, tend to closely align with underdogs, right? Because that's like, oh, I'm an underdog too. It's like, well, you're 16, relax. But the problem is the LGBT MAP movement is mainstream. It's everywhere. It's got its own month. It's got extra days. It's got a day of visibility. It's got all this other kind of stuff. You light up the White House, right? Every single teacher in every single public school, it seems like, is waving some kind of version of the pride flag. What I'm saying is they've overplayed their hand. The LGBT movement has overplayed its hand, and now it's starting to face backlash and stuff like this. Because guess what? These guys may be in jail, but they got family, they got friends, and they have people online their age that will say, wait a minute, you can burn an American flag, but you can't touch a quote unquote pride flag. And all that's going to do is harden, and I'm going to use a phrase that Catholics know. It's going to harden their hearts towards the movement. This does not endear younger generations to the, oh, well, if you're going to charge us with a hate crime, we're not going to do it. You're going to find more people doing it, right? More people that will spit on them. They'll drag their feet on them because guess what? They are the establishment now. I know they like to paint themselves. Oh, Trump's in this country and we're going to lose our rights and did it. Younger generations, they're not down with whatever cause you're selling at this point because you're overrepresented in every film, you're in every town hall, you're everywhere, and people they're just done with any of that kind of stuff. So this is actually going to be interesting because I feel, and I think I'm correct in this, that this is going to do nothing but continue the hostility. And I only use that in like they're hostile to it. They're not accepting of it because it's being essentially shoved down their throats. We're seeing more of it online. We're seeing more people pushing back on them. We're seeing more of this kind of stuff. And authoritarians don't know anything else. They don't know anything else. They only know how to tighten the grip. Well, we're going to punish you even more. And they're like, okay, the more you punish us, the more we resist. Because most of these people don't have kids. They don't understand. I know my fathers in the chat, my moms in the chat will understand. Sometimes the more you punish a child, the more you make something restricted, or you put down, they tend to rebel a little bit, right? Maybe just once in a while. So I think this is very interesting, and I think this is going to have long-term negative consequences for the LGBT movement, which is already losing support among Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and so forth. So that's the first story, the first warm-up act we have here on Rickcast. Second one, a little bit funny. I want your opinion on it. I want to let you let me know in the chat what you're thinking. So this popped up on the Twitter feed, the X feed, whatever you want to call it. I hate the fact it's called X. It's so gay. So one of these things. All right, hold on a second. Let me go back here. And that's another thing, right? Everybody else sees that. Everybody else sees that, and they go, "What? It's a funny joke. You guys can't take a joke? You guys," because everybody gets joked. Everybody gets cracked on. And you can't take the joke. Sorry about that. That's why it was kind of funny when Trump got elected, and it was like, "Oh, you can say gay and retarded now. They're back." And those things have been normalized, and as they should be, because comedy is comedy. And they can't take a joke, and that's going to hasten. That's what I'm saying. That's going to hasten more backlash against them. Because if there's one thing in America you have to be able to do, you got to be able to take a joke. Because eventually we're a nation of snarky, sarcastic people, and eventually it's just like, nah, this ain't gonna work. All right, let's get to our second warm-up act. Question for the chat. This is a selection of old Assyrian documents in the Yale Babylonian collection. And so I had to respond, do these things look like a bowl of frosted mini wheats, or am I just fat? Tell me I'm lying. Tell me when you saw that at first. You weren't like, oh, look, it's a bowl of shredded wheat or a bowl of frosted mini wheats. And yeah, I guess I'm on a calorie restriction right now as well. And I guess I'm just always hungry. Yeah, right. It looks like cereal. It looks like cereal. I'm telling you, you were 100% correct. And the guy who won the whole thing right here, Coach P, who ate the tax and loan records. Yeah, that would be me. I would be like, sorry, boss. I ate the tax and loan records because I was hungry. But I thought that was kind of funny. Just kind of off the top of my head, like this looks like, especially the bowl. We don't know how big it is. It's probably much bigger, but in this context, it looks like a little bowl of cereal. It's probably got all kinds of nasty things in it. Yeah, my eyes are playing tricks on me. They are, dude. I ain't gonna lie. Right? I've never been shy about telling you my vice. One of my primary vices is gluttony in food. Struggle with it constantly. Right? That's something I confess often. That's something I struggle with all the time. And apparently the fact that I think stone tablets look like shredded wheat is a little bit more indicative of said topic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a little goofing around. Let's get to our first story of the day. I'll give you a little video at first. Here you go.
Today, in the important case known as Medina versus Planned Parenthood, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states have the right to defund Planned Parenthood. In this case, the state of South Carolina took this action through their Medicaid program. Southern Baptists value life and affirm that taxpayer funds should never be directed toward abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. And that is exactly what the brief that we filed before the court said. In light of the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, which allowed states to once again set policy about abortion, we applaud this creative thinking about how to protect life and combat the horrors of Planned Parenthood. With the dysfunction in Washington, we need more states taking proactive steps, just like we've seen in South Carolina. We all know that abortion isn't healthcare, and we know that Planned Parenthood is not an organization that's interested in saving lives. Our tax dollars shouldn't fund such heinous activity. Today's ruling provides a roadmap for states to ensure that no longer happens. Please visit erlc.com/SCOTUS for more information about this case.
So yeah, absolutely. It's a win, right? You take the wins when you can get them. You celebrate the wins when they're there. Thank goodness. Also, it's an example of what we like to call federalism, how every state should be allowed to do this now, because you have states like my home state of Rhode Island, which are mandating that tax dollars be used for abortion. Yet at this point, we weren't allowed to say, well, no, our tax dollars can't. So does this solve an overarching problem? Not really, because California, New York, Rhode Island, Illinois, they can all still mandate it. But at least now, states have the power to at least cut off Medicare funding to Planned Parenthood. So the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states can block Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood, marking a win for a Republican effort to defund the organization. This decision may limit patients' ability to contest funding decisions, especially in rural areas with fewer health care options. This is the center view from Ground News. Public health groups like American Cancer Society highlighted that lawsuits are crucial for Medicaid recipients to assert their rights. In South Carolina, Planned Parenthood receives $90,000 a year in Medicaid funding, which is a small part of the state's total Medicare budget. Doesn't matter if it's $1. Doesn't matter if it's $1. The fact that any of your money, the money that you pay in taxes, goes to support the murder of babies should not be happening. It should not be happening because, simply enough, you have a right to do that. You have a right to decide where your taxpayers go. Now, Amy Howe over at SCOTUS blog wrote that the vote was a 6-3 and an opinion written by Justice Neil Gorsuch. So Neil Gorsuch penned this decision. Held that a provision of the Medicaid Act requiring states to ensure that Medicaid patients can obtain care from, quote unquote, any qualified provider does not create the kind of clear and unambiguous right required under the Supreme Court case to allow private lawsuits alleging violations of the provision. The decision means that the lawsuit by Julie Edwards, who had been treated by Planned Parenthood and sought, quote, to shift all of her gynecological and reproductive health care there, cannot move forward. She therefore cannot challenge the state's decision to exclude Planned Parenthood from Medicare. You're right, Catholic Jedi, not one penny. As a Catholic, or even as, evangelicals and Protestants who are really good at supporting pro-life efforts, if you believe that, as it is correctly stated, life begins at conception, then the fact of the matter is this: not one penny should be spent of my state taxpayer dime to it. The argument's always been this: if Planned Parenthood is such a vital institution, and I don't like this argument, but it is an argument that does have standing in our current setup, then privately fund it. Why does it need public funds? If it's so vital, it should be able to raise money on its own. We know pregnancy centers and places like Preborn, which I give every month to a company called Preborn. They provide ultrasounds for women and all kinds of things. And there's crisis pregnancy centers, which the Catholic Church leads the way in supporting. They don't get a dime of government funding, right? They don't get a dime. So why should Planned Parenthood get a dime of government funding? Right? Preborn has to go out and seek private donations. Pregnancy crisis centers have to go out and seek donations and do fundraisers and do on all these things. So why wouldn't they? Why can't, if Planned Parenthood, and I'm sure they can, I'm sure George Soros can write a check and fund all of them. If that's the case, then that's that. I don't like it, don't get me wrong, but in the legal standing, it's better than having the state fund it. Now, some of you will think that that's an endorsement of Planned Parenthood. It's not on my part. I can see the difference, though. If it's privately funded, that's one more step to getting it shut down. Right? That's one more step to getting it shut down. But the fact of the matter is, if you can get rid of it from this, if you can get rid of the state appendage, the state cash flow to it, that makes it weaker. And I think that's something that's absolutely vital. So according to this vote, per Matt, it was a 6-3 vote. So it looks like all the quote unquote conservatives voted on this one. And that includes the notorious ACB, who has had glowing articles written about her, about how she's now a centrist. I'm sure they won't like that after this one. That's the thing, Catholic Jedi. It's not our money, right? It's one more barrier. If we can get it off the appendage, if we can get it out of the fact that you and I are paying for it against our will, okay, well, we're not paying for it. Okay, we're not paying for it. You got to go find money yourself. Go out and make the case to the average person that you should be able to fund them to murder children. Now, of course, they'll say, "Oh, reproductive rights," and da, 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 da. Let them spend the money, time, and energy trying to fundraise. Because the opposite end, you and I, the Catholics, the evangelicals, the Christians, we support the Prices pregnancy centers, preborn, all those other things. We put our money towards that. And right now, we're actually paying double. We're putting our money towards that, and we're also having our money sucked out to pay for Planned Parenthood. If we can at least cut off that appendage, this is a win. The war does still go on. You're correct. And Pro-Life Inc. is too busy celebrating Roe for 4 years later to do anything about it. Well, Pro-Life Inc., here's the dirty secret. In Bellator, I know, because you watch this show, so you're obviously a person of high quality intelligence and attractiveness. You know the fact that Pro-Life Inc. only cares about national issues. Pro-Life Inc. does not give a rip about state issues because they can't fundraise off of it. And there are some really good pro-life places out there, but they're all nationally focused. Now, there's state ones that you can support, and even that, there's the double-edged sword of, hey, you want to support a state pro-life agency. Their whole thing is they're also, and I have to just say this as bluntly as possible, they're also not interested in abortion being eliminated. They're also not interested in seeing it eliminated, because if abortion goes away tomorrow, what do? And this is the question you have to ask them. Hey, if abortion is gone tomorrow, what do you do? Lily Rose, what do you do tomorrow if abortion, if it gets, and by the way, the idea of Thanos snapping that a certain person used, somebody else, came up with that idea. So I'm going to take it back. If abortion was snapped out of existence, I won't use Thanos snap, but if abortion was snapped out of existence tomorrow, what would Lila Rose do? What would, what's her face? She's big here in Texas. She used to be the abortionist. Abby. What would Abby Johnson do? What would these people do? In my heart, I know they want abortion gone, but at the same time, what's their future without it? So it is what it is. So, fortunately, or not, abortion will always happen. Yeah, no, I'm not. Just like murder, we have laws against murder, and people murder, Catholic Jedi. So you're 100% correct. Yeah, well, she's just following. Francis changed the teaching on that, and I'm sure I don't think Pope Leo XIV is going to do it, but some pope down the line is going to change that back, because that's Francis's view, as we know, didn't really line up with most of Catholic tradition and history. So that'll get changed back there. But, and I hate even saying this because it makes me sound like I'm a misogynist, which I am. So let's, and B, I don't support what the pro-life movement is doing. I think they do great work. I just know that they are incentivized to not eliminate it. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am, but I don't think I am. So the root problem is an abortion that era is predominant in the pro-life world. Contraceptive. Yeah. No. Yes. Yes. There's a whole problem with abortion is the consequence of the sexual revolution, the pill, all these other kinds of things that go hand in hand with it, right? With sexual liberation. If you have sexual liberation in a hookup culture, abortion is always going to be on the table until society reins that in, which I don't know is, absent a seismic event, will ever really be able to root that back in or rein that, get that toothpaste back in the bottle. Abortion is going to always be on the table because of that. So that's a very good point. No, I'm not. I haven't even watched that, so I don't even know. I haven't watched the Jimmy Martin thing with Pete Buttigieg, La Buttigieg, so I have no problem on that. I love the Planned Parent, the Unplanned movie. I actually got I interviewed the directors back on the station. I interviewed the directors of it. I thought it was a great film. So I have that. You don't understand the Leela Rose, Abby Johnson hating. No. I don't hate them. I don't hate them at all. I think it's a good point you bring up. It may sound like my whole thing is they're not incentivized to really push for the end of abortion, because if there's no more abortion, what do? There's always that root cause. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but their identity is tied to being anti-abortion activists. So if there's no more abortion, what do? So that's my question. So I respect what they do. There's a lot of stuff that Leela Rose does that I'm kind of like, should we really be talking about that? The fact that she platformed that Naya girl, right? We talked about Naya River or whatever her name is, the former OF model, and she brought her on and all these other kinds of, it's like, is that really talking about getting rid of abortion and so forth? Anyway, hopefully that makes a little bit more sense, RG. If it sounds like I'm ragging on them, I'm just pointing out that they may not be as incentivized to getting rid of abortion as it sounds. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. And I'm not trying to say it in a negative content. It's an observation, but that's all it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Cast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Conversation's going great night now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Keep it up. Keep it going. This is fantastic. You guys make the show that much better with the commentary because it gives me something to play off of. Let's get to our second story of the night. So on the one hand, you have this headline, which is Trump may, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Trump signals U.S. may ease Iran oil sanction enforcement to help rebuild country. And then on the other hand, you have this article from Newsweek, 4 signs Iran and Israel could restart their war. So get out of here. The first one we'll go through. No, that's not cream soda. It's a, I know it looks like it's one of these nootropic drinks that's supposed to make you happy or whatever. I don't think it's doing well, but no, it's not cream soda, unfortunately. If it was, it'd have to be 0 calorie for me. But anyway, so yeah, this one, Trump has said, hey, the conflict's over. Maybe we'll ease the oil sanctions and the uranium stuff to help help Iran rebuild, right? Because Trump's trying to do that. I honestly do think, out of all the stuff in his heart, I think Trump really is trying these things. I do, but at the same time, I also think that he's just stuck in a place where it's not going to work because he's just caught in the middle of something that's far greater than him. That's just much bigger than him. And so I thought I saved it, but I guess I didn't. There was a report that Trump wanted to open up the no, I don't drink beer. Catholic Jedi. I don't drink beer. That's a funny one, Bellator. I almost made that joke. You actually got it. So Trump's trying to do this. And he says, hey, we'll ease up the sanctions, help rebuild the country. At the NATO summit, Trump indicated that China might be allowed to keep buying oil from Iran despite existing sanctions. Following the 12-day war, the production levels increased. Trump maintained that maximum pressure on Iran, including oil sanctions, remained, but hinted at possibly easing enforcement to help Iran rebuild its economy. The potential easing might increase Iranian oil on global markets, affecting prices and geopolitical dynamics, while some are just saying that, this is really what Trump's trying to say. They need money. So Trump's trying to just placate as many sides as possible, and I get that. They're going to need money to put that country back in shape. We want to see that happen. Trump said a day earlier that China can continue to purchase Iranian oil. Just trying to ensure that not having as many sanctions on the Iranians will kind of ease the tension. If they're allowed to rebuild, maybe they can go away. However, Trump's in a what are you doing? Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Trump's in a problem because everybody and their mother wants war. Everybody does. This is from, who wrote this? Amir Tafari, who specializes in stuff from the Middle East, apparently. 4 signs the Iran and Israel could restart their war. I'll give you 2 right now. Here's your first one. This is from disclose.tv. Israel did not destroy all of Iran's highly enriched uranium. The U.S.-Israel position is that Iran will be asked to hand over that material, said Israel's defense minister. Read that first sentence again. We'll read it again. Israel and the U.S., by extension, did not destroy all of Iran's highly enriched uranium. Israel has now come out and said, Trump's like, we blew it up. It's no more. We put bombs in everything. Boom, boom. Bombs over Baghdad. John McCain's proud. Blah, 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 blah. Obliteration. Yeah. And we're all celebrating that. And they're like, we're going after the leaker, said we didn't do it. Now Israel's like, yeah, by the way, they still have uranium. What did you do for 12 days? What did you do for 12 days? Oh, okay. And if that's not enough, you have warmongers from both sides of the aisle pushing the same narrative.
Listen, to me, it still appears that we have only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a handful of months. There's no doubt there was damage done to the program, but the allegations that we have obliterated their program just don't seem to stand up to reason. I just do not.
Guys, I'm telling you, the taste was given. The taste of war has been given to the military-industrial complex and to the Israelis. They are not going to stop until there is a ground war in Iran. I know, and that's why I went after Crowder the other day, even though like 18 people saw it outside of you guys. Because Crowder is going after everything like the war is done, like the war is over. And I am telling you, that is not the case. That is not the case by far. This war they will still continue to beat the drums of this, and Trump still has 3 years left. Trump still has 3 years left. I know it feels like forever. Trump's only 6 months into his term. So the idea that this is done is farcical at best.
I think the president was telling the truth when he said this program was obliterated. There was certainly damage done to the program. But there is there's still significant remaining capability. I walk away from that briefing still under the belief that we have not obliterated the program. The president was deliberately misleading the public.
Now Dems are going to try and use that as, hey, Trump undersold this, man. You're still in danger. And it doesn't help when the other side of the aisle, the Uniparty, is singing the same tune.
The program was obliterated at those 3 sites, but they still have ambitions. I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set.
So you have both of these, you have the Republicans and the Democrats coming out saying, yeah, it was obliterated there, but it still exists. And now you have Israel saying, yeah, we didn't get it all. So now you have the deep state, the uniparty, the military industrial complex, and the government of Israel all lined up against the president of the United States, demanding further action, demanding it. I am telling you, this thing is not done. It is not done by any means. I wish it was done. I wish it was. And that's why everybody got me wrong when they were like, what war? There's not going to be a war. God, you don't realize the amount of things that Trump and his guys are against. That they are against.
That several years, when the administration is saying it's obliterated, it suggests that they're not able to build a weapon. But you're saying in several years, perhaps they'll be able to. Isn't there
that's what I'm saying. They're obliterated today, but you can reconstitute.
Right? They'll rebuild them, guys. So we got to go back in and make sure the job is done. By the way, this happened today. Anybody see this happen? This happened today. Alleged targeted assassination attempt in Tehran. Israel and local media says 2 members of the IRGC and a nuclear scientist were killed in this assassination. How long do you think this is going to continue, this ceasefire? This ceasefire is already broken. Guys, this ceasefire is already broken. The Israelis aren't going to, somebody just happened to shoot a rocket right into the one room. Who did it? Who did it? That's the question. Anyway, after ceasefire broken by President Trump this week, which, as I just showed you, is already broken. 2 weeks ago, Israel launched strikes against this, blah, blah, blah. Why does it matter? The Iran-Israel conflict has shaped security landscape of the entire Middle East with the potential to ignite broader regional war and draw in global powers. New conflict could disrupt vital energy supplies. Iran's nuclear infrastructure. I just showed you. We are already seeing from officials on both sides of the aisle saying, by the way, it didn't work. You have the Israelis, by the way, they still have more. You weren't going to be able to placate, and I know what Trump was trying to do, and I give him credit for trying it, even though I was 100% against the military action, because now you've given them an opening for it. I'm not saying Trump's being played. I think Trump was trying to thread the needle as best he could in this situation. I don't think it's backfiring. I just think it's going to spiral out. But despite the damage, U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency assessment states the attack only delayed Iran's nuclear progress by months, not destroying it, and key infrastructure remains operational. Meanwhile, the International Atomic Energy Agency recently reported that Iran has firmer limited inspector access and increased uranium stockpiles beyond agreed limits. So these are, I don't know what this is. This is a nice map. I don't know what the map means, but this is Israeli air. Oh, okay. This is just what the war has done. And look how many missile impacts you have in Israel compared to Iran. And so you have a lot more action going on here. Both sides accused each other of violating the truth. Israel launched retaliatory strikes on Iranian missile facilities, sparking Trump's frustration. Iran missile strikes on Beersheba apartment buildings around the time, killed 4 civilians. Iran said the missiles have been fired before. Covert operations. Iran says it's arrested over 700 individuals accused of working with Israeli intelligence, dismantling what authorities describe as a major Mossad-linked espionage network. So you have them happening. You have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailing a recent military campaign as a historic victory and warned if someone in Iran tries to restore the program, which we're being told was never really destroyed, We will act with the same determination and the same power, which is meaning he's going to run to the U.S. for help. His message underscored Israel's readiness to strike again. In turn, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian declared the outcome a great victory. The ceasefire may only offer a temporary respite, with Iran saying its nuclear program is still intact. And now you have the Israelis and the Republicans and the Democrats all saying this. Unless the U.S. can broker an enforceable agreement, this fragile peace could soon unravel. I'm just saying everything is on the wall here. More likely to happen in the next 2 to 10 years. World War III, Civil War, both. Nothing happens. Great reset. I don't think World War III happens for letter A. I think we go into Iran and we get our never-ending. The deep state gets its land war in Asia. It's wanted a land war in Iran for 20 years. We played the clip. Iran has always been the crown jewel of the invasion plans. Iraq was just kind of a stepping stone to that. Civil War 2.0, I think you'll see more fracturing. I don't think you'll actually see guys with guns fighting each other in the street. I think you'll see further fractioning happening here in these United States. And I think the never-ending war in Iran and the fracturing could lead to a great reset of some sort. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but I don't think we get World War III. I think the Israelis get what they want because they got it last time. I mean, how the evidence is overwhelming. They wanted the U.S. to bomb Iranian facilities. They wanted them to bomb Fordo, and we did it. That's the problem. My argument has always been our foreign policy is being dictated by a foreign government. And now the pieces are being put on the table, and all it's going to take, guys, is one false flag by whoever, the Israelis, the Iranians, the CIA, whoever. Listen, I'm full Alex Jones here. All it's got to take is one of these by, and Jones has been right more than he's been wrong. All it's got to take is one false flag to get the U.S. ginned up. Also, think about economic factors. I think it was Michael Thomas said a day or two. He said sometime this week that war is always based on economic indicators. And if you look at the fact that our economy is not rebounding as strongly as some had hoped, gas is down, blah, blah, blah. Jobs are still hard to find. The labor participation rate is not great. If the midterms look like they're not going to go well, guys, or let's say the dollar, you got the dollar, which is on the brink. Also, think about this. War is a great way to transition to digital currency. And because war is a great way to reset things. So I guess your reset questions, even if it is a never-ending war, a war at any point is a reset option. So I don't, everybody, and I give Trump credit for trying. And I said it the other day when he was like, they don't know what the frig they're doing. I think that was just frustration because he really thinks that he's dealing with people who are honestly dealing with him. Right? Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal and a liar. Guy's been lying about Iran having a bomb for 30 years. So that's, I think Trump is going to do everything he can, because I still would like to believe that Trump could. I'm trying to believe the best, but I think this situation may be out of his control. So that's what I'm just saying to people, and that's why I have a problem with guys like Crowder and others being like, the war's over, you idiot. What are you talking about? It's like, it's not, though. It's not. It's not in any way, shape, or form. And if we get any kind of action, gas is going to go through the roof. There was a Truth Social post from Trump the other day where he was like, you guys got to start drilling more oil. You got to start drilling more. Drill more oil. Yeah, that's because if they go after it and Iran we get into a land war in Iran, that's going to impact oil globally. So just understand all of that. All right, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to talk about my brother, Dean Oakes, a very good friend of mine. He's having some problems. His van is broken down, and he needs our help on it, in addition to his medical costs. He's looking he needs around $800 to help with his van to get it fixed so he can get, because he's in a wheelchair, and he's got a van to help him get to and from the doctor. He needs that to get fixed. He needs our help. So if you can send me a message at barrettbrief@gmail.com. You can send me a message on X. You can send me a message however you want to. You can send me a message right now, and I can give you the link to his GoFundMe. He really does need our assistance. He does need our help in every way we can. And if you can help in any way you can, it will be greatly appreciated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our next story here. Just real quick, I want to talk about, and if I'm talking about the Iranian war is, and this is why it shocked me that they didn't go to war, that they didn't do this stuff under Biden, because this would have been a great excuse to stop talking about his day-to-day stuff. The reason why they did is because it was a bunch of women. If there were a bunch of men in charge of Joe Biden's presidency, we would have like tactically nuked all of Iran by now. But the fact that you had women in charge, that's why they didn't do it, because they just can't pull the trigger. But if the economy is not doing, if it's not rebounding the way they hope, war is a great excuse to get everybody's, to stop talking about it. Because we're at war and we're fighting the Iranians because they hate our freedoms and all these other kinds of things. So just keep in mind. Just keep it in mind. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting story here. So Pope Leo affirms, I should have done this before. I'm just Baptist. So Pope Leo has stated that in June 2025 at St. Peter's Basilica, when he met with a lot of priests who had seen him, he spoke to 400 Catholic leaders representing 38 nations, reaffirming the importance of priestly celibacy and calling for decisive measures to address abuse within the church. Now, we talked about this when Leo was elected, because there were reports about him. There were some Catholic watchdog organizations that was like, oh, what is Pope Leo going to do to address these things? This is one of the first things he's taking action to, saying that we must address the problems within the church. Now, does that mean he's going to get rid of all the homosexuals, which is really the problem behind it? Oh, I know. Watch out. I'm going to get banned and thrown off all the social media for saying that. But there was an extensive report, and I lost the report like a moron, that showed that the age of abuse was over pubescent age. Because whenever they make the jokes about Catholic priests, it's about little boys, but it was actually above pubescent age. And when it's above pubescent age, that leans more towards homosexuality than to predator priests. Now, does it happen? Obviously, those men, we need to do the old classic thing, not move them to safer places. If you violate that, they need to dig your hands until they're scarred for life and toss them to the authorities and let them have their way with it. But the fact that Pope Leo has said this, the Pope followed decades of widespread child sexual abuse allegations, including 900 complaints involving 3,000 incidences documented between 1970 and 2015. Remember those numbers. They said 900, right? They said 900. That was the reason. Well, anybody ever talk about this? Come on, man. Come on, internet. 700 victims that they know of. Go away. Go away. I don't want you to... Come on, you ghoul. Ridiculous, man. I'm trying to do some stuff here. 700 victims in 20 years. So that's absolutely incredible. Not a word from the legacy media. Not anything like that. They haven't said a word about it. And Southern Baptists, they can absolutely marry. They can do all those kinds of things. And yet that didn't. Here we go. This is a better one because the Guardian isn't stupid and tries to make me pay for your crappy reporting. So this came out when? You can't even give me a date? More than 3 years ago. This came out 3 years ago. 700, where is it? 700 entries between 2000 and 2019. The crazy thing is, with Southern Baptists and all these other kinds, if there's any cases like that, they can just move on. And those are the ones that were reported. So, of course, they come after the Catholics. And yes, that was a problem. We let homosexuals into the church, into the priesthood. Those things fell into the way that it would. And now we're dealing with that. Oh, Brian, I wish somebody did a tracker. Yeah, right. I wish, especially female public school teachers. I wish female public school teachers could get married because then they wouldn't abuse kids. Yeah, you'll never hear about the true sexual abuse that takes place here in these United States. And that's the public schools because of the unions and the fact that school teachers are Democrats. So they'll never report on that. Never report on it. And the crazy thing is, the vast majority of them that are being reported now are usually females. Now, of course, there are males. And I know Brian, there was one in his district just last week, right? This month that was caught. But we won't talk about that. And we won't talk about the 700 entries that took place, right? And so, of course, I'm going to do this to defend the faith because we are the only ones, and this is what I'm saying, and this I'm glad Pope Francis is doing it. We are the only ones that are being held to account. We had the movie, what was it, Scandal or whatever, Spotlight. Yeah, understandable. Where's the movie about the public school teachers? Where's the movie about the SBC? Where's the movie about any of those things? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's not important to you because the only one that the legacy media is intent on destroying is the Catholic Church. It's the only one. Only one. A Pew survey found 95% of Catholics were aware of the scandals. 80% believe the issues persist because popular media only brings up Catholic priests. Popular media always makes jokes about Catholic priests. Even when you watch something like Crowder, they talk about Catholic priests like, oh, they got to keep the boys away from them. They don't talk about anything else. They don't talk about the SBC. They don't talk about anything else. They don't talk about business, right? Secular businesses. They don't talk about any of those because it doesn't matter to them because they're not trying to destroy them. The public schools, they're trying to reinforce. They're trying to uplift because public schools are everything to them. The SBC, they could care less because then they're just a bunch of crazy evangelicals that don't matter to them. No offense, evangelicals. I love y'all, but you guys are not, you guys don't have the ability to say you built Western civilization. You don't have, because you guys have, not all of you, right? There are very good evangelical. They don't do gay marriage. There's a lot of evangelical Protestant. They got female bishops. They got gay everything. They got all kinds of stuff. And despite James Martin and the German bishop's attempts, it's not going to happen in the Catholic Church. It's not. You know why? Because we got 2,000 years of history and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on our side. So, yeah, 4-1 minimum, Brian. That's what we know. Minimum. And there are always jokes. There are always jokes about the female teachers and the male teachers. Guys, I technically worked. I can't prove it, but it was a very strange situation when I worked at a school district. There was a coach on the coaching staff, and there was a senior girl that hung out, and she was the equipment manager and all these other kinds of things, and they were very friendly, and we were all like, that's really weird. And as soon as she graduated at 18, they moved in together and moved to a different part of Texas and got married. Interesting. It happens in public schools, guys. It happens more than you think. And that's what's reported, Brian. You're right. But the Catholic Church, we're the ones. And that's fine. I have no problem with Leo saying we got to root it out. Now, I wish Leo would go one step further, Leo the 14th, and say no more homosexual priests. Not even in the seminaries. Root all that, to quote Pope Francis, get rid of all that faggotry. Get rid of all the faggotry in the church. And so it's good because his directives emphasize accountability and transparency. I'm fine with that. Signaling an ongoing international pressure on church leaders to end impunity and rebuild trust amid survivors. Listen, fine and good, whatever. Right? All that thing is the fact that the liberal world wants to destroy the church. And they want to do these things where they say, I saw a Taylor Marshall video. I didn't watch the whole thing, but where people are like, we have a shortage of priests. Let's just allow priests to marry. And Marshall's like, I was a priest. I don't know what somebody in the chat may know. I don't want to say. He was a priest in a different denomination and he was married. He's like, you can't do it. You can't be married and be and serve your flock. You just can't do it. And people are like, why don't they let him? How can I let a guy who's not married teach me how to be married? Like, that's the feminist talking point. He was Episcopalian. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to insult him by saying he was something else. Didn't want to call him like a Methodist. Always like these liberal women. How am I going to have somebody who's never been married give me pointers on how to be married? He's giving you pointers about the church and how the church is taught about marriage. And he can't be married because he is married to the bride of Christ, the Catholic Church. That's who he's married to. All of our priests. And you have to be celibate because you have to remove all of these earthly. If you have the power, which we believe as Catholics, right? Feast of Corpus Christi was last week. If we believe as Catholics that our priests, and I do, they have the power to transubstantiate and take bread and wine and turn it into the body and blood of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. They have to be supernatural in the fact that they have to give up worldly desires. That's right. The Sacred Heart's tomorrow. Good call on that. And so I'm glad. I'm happy. I know, and I have to confess this, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about this. I have to stop watching Catholic media's reporting on Pope Francis. They are so negative on Pope Francis's reporting that the love that I've expressed for Pope Francis, I actually felt it diminishing a bit because of the constant negativity that some of these guys are pouring out. Did I say Francis? I'm sorry, Pope Leo the 14th. Thank you. Because they all have FDS, Francis Derangement Syndrome. No, I got you, Bellator. Thank you. Did I say it again? No, it's Pope Leo, not Pope Francis. They diminished my love for Pope Leo the 14th a little bit because of the constant negative. Oh, he appointed this bad person. Oh, he appointed this bad person. And every time on social media, and I get it, guys. I understand these things. Right? I lost access to one of my traditional Latin masses in Austin. The one we have in Waco is hanging by a thread, and I think that one's going to get a pass because it's at a college. But every time Pope Leo, how long are you going to let your children in the wilderness? It's like, guys, I understand the importance of the mass. I do. He's going to get to it when he gets to it. I know people don't like that answer. They want it done now. And I've called some of them spoiled children when they act that way. They're stomping their feet and demanding it happen. We need access to it now. We need the mass now. They're taking it from us. Pope Leo, help us. And yes, he is the Holy Father. I get it. You appeal to your father. Help us. Please help us. I don't think you're going to get an immediate. The best you were going to get is what happened in Charlotte when you had that bishop try to do all these restrictions. You got a call and it was like, nah, you can't. I don't think you're going to get a full repeal of Traditionis Custodes for probably a couple years. And I know people don't want to hear that. We all may lose access to the mass at some point. I don't think he's going to make. Here's why I say it. And I know it looks like everyone we talk about goes back to traditionalist. Because the reason I don't think so, the reason I don't think he's going to pull the trigger immediately and go after taking it apart, he doesn't have his people in place yet. He doesn't have the support within the Vatican to do it. I think that plays a huge role. And I know people will be like, he's the Pope, just do it. There's a lot of political things that you have to navigate and deal with outside of just, I'm the Pope, you have to do this. So, Pope Cardinal Burke, he's talked to Pope Francis about it. Pope Francis has talked about reestablishing the liturgy and the law. He has the ideas. He's talked about being a unifier. He's talked about the importance of the Eastern Rite. He's dropping the hints. I just don't think he can do it yet. I just don't. And I get it. In Bellator, I actually get that. We've dealt with Traditionis Custodes for 4 years, and we're still dealing with it. Detroit, Tulsa, a lot of places are still getting these restrictions on it. And Steve Cunningham and I will talk about this maybe on News from the Pew. Yeah, and suffering sanctifies the soul, as you said. But back to this one, I'm glad Pope Leo XIV is addressing it. It was something that was brought up, and the fact that he's taking steps immediately to say, listen, we got to reaffirm this. We got to root this out. We got to restore the faith. We got to put this forward. I think that's a good thing. So thank you, Holy Father. And can we do one more thing before I move on? Can we stop throwing things at the Pope? I know it was cute the one time that he threw the little beanie baby and he caught it. But now every day he's driving around in the Pope Mobile and people are tossing stuff at him. From a security standpoint, can I just ask, can the Swiss Guard be like, stop throwing stuff at the Holy Father? I mean, it was cute one time, but can we just not do it anymore? Your job as the Swiss Guard is to be like, yeah, no more throwing things. Let's not toss stuff at the Holy Father, please. So let's please stop doing that. If you listen, stop tossing things at the Holy Father. It's not a good look. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last stories. We're getting into our entertainment section here on Rickcast. First one, Denis Villeneuve has been tapped to direct the next James Bond film. Talk about this real quick. I think everybody wanted Nolan. I think Christopher Nolan is a great director. I think he's a little overhyped. I don't know how much better his film would have been. Maybe it would have been great. I think most of Nolan's films are very good. I enjoy them, but I don't see this as a bad choice. If you've seen the movie Sicario, the bridge scene on the border is a James Bond film set up. He's, the ending scene. He can handle those types of things. Now, if he doesn't write the script, which I don't think he is because he's directing Dune 3 right now, if somebody else writes the script, he's going to be in a lot better of a position because he's even said he's not into dialogue heavy stuff. He's a visual director. Him and his cinematographer. They're beautiful. The shots they have, they're great at what they do. He's not a writer director. So if he's just directing the next Bond film, I think that's fine. Now the question is, who's going to be Bond? Who's going to be Bond? People are worried that it's going to be, I think Amazon, MGM, for all their wokeness, Jennifer Salke, she's not there anymore. She was the lady that, she was like the Kathleen Kennedy of Amazon MGM. She was super woke. She's gone. Also, they've looked at the Ballerina movie this summer. They're going to look at Jurassic Park Rebirth Refund, which is not going to do as well. They're going to look at female leads and how the audience is not responding to them. So I don't think you're going to get a female James Bond. I don't think that's the case. Now the question is, are they going to go with a race swap? It depends on if Jeff Bezos is happy losing more money. Because eventually, they've got forget you money for ages and ages. But eventually, it's just bad for business. And so, hopefully, you'll get everybody, of course, is saying, come on, it's time to tap Henry Cavill as Bond and let's get this thing going. I don't think they're going to, I would love to see Henry Cavill as Bond. You're not going to get Cavill as Bond. You're just not. They're just not going to do it. However, I think you'll get somebody like Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I think can do the job. He's young. He can do 5-6 more films if, you know, how they tend to do these things. He's just out of range for being able to do it. I would love to see Henry Cavill do it because I'd like to see him actually get a franchise that works. But I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is the best choice for Bond because I think he can pull it off. He'll be young enough. He's British. That's fine. He's white. And they were talking about this just now in open bar before I came on. They were talking about it. Well, what about the diversity stuff? Well, you can make the next Bond villain a woman, right? You can make other characters race swapped and all these other kinds of things if you just kind of keep Bond as the white British, character. There's always been this talk of bringing Pierce Brosnan back as like old man Bond for one more time, like the Wolverine movie, the Logan movie. I would love to see Pierce Brosnan get one more crack at it. I mean, I think he's like 75, isn't he? I mean, he looks great. He looks amazing. But I think he just might be, if this was 5 years ago, I'd be all over it. But, I think he might just be out of range. But I don't mind Denise doing this. I don't know if it'll be as realistic. He's said some good stuff. He said that his first movie was one of the Bond films. He loved all of them. He never thought he was going to give a chance to it. He might be. I don't know if here's the thing. It's not him directing. It's who's writing it. Whoever the writer is. If the writer brings in the cool cars and the tech and all these other kinds of things, I don't think Denise will have a problem with it because he's not a script guy. He's a visual guy. He'll make it work. So it's really about who's writing the film. And we don't know. We don't have a writer. We don't have a script. We don't have a Bond. We don't have any of that stuff. They just tapped him to be the director, kind of like, hey, we're taking this seriously because we're bringing in a pretty renowned director to helm the franchise. So we'll see how it goes from there. Now everybody's just holding their breath for the next Bond film. I'm going to ask this straight up. Do you guys even want to talk about Rachel Zegler? Because if you don't, I don't have to talk about her. She's annoying. Let me do this real quick. So Rachel Zegler is the prime example of a Gen Alpha or whatever. She's like 24. She used therapy and anti-anxiety meds to get through the Snow White backlash. Snow White star Rachel Zegler admits a self-inflicted backlash over Snow White sent her into something of a tailspin. The backlash was, of course, one of her own creation, and as a woman, she can't take accountability after she basically told everybody to go pound sand. And so she said that she had to go to, and of course, this was the magazine it was based off of. She admitted to requiring therapy and anti-anxiety medication to get her through the accountability phase of the actions. She admitted that she couldn't even do this. And of course, now they call it, this is the crazy thing, like theater kid based princess. So I think we can finally say the word based has lost its meaning. The word based has lost its meaning. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to talk about this real quick. There's this weird thing now in these magazines that are just like GIFs instead of pictures. I've seen this in a couple different articles now. James Gunn did a couple. So now we have to like watch these people move and stuff. So I just want to comment on the fact that I don't like that. And I think it's kind of stupid. So yeah, there she is. She triggers all of us. So that's why we're done with it. I won't subject you guys to that anymore. All right, I'm going to get off the show because I am starting News from the Pew begins in 30 minutes. 30 minutes ish over on the News from the Pew page. So hopefully you guys will join me over there in about 20-30 minutes. Starts at 7:40 Central because that's God's time, 8:40 Eastern for you heathens. But I'll see you guys in about 25 minutes. If not, I'll see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow, you'll have a review for F1 at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm going to debut it then. I'm going to go see F1 tomorrow at 11. Come back, give you a review for that, and then I'll do tomorrow night's Rickcast. So you're going to get both. You're going to get a review for F1, and then you're going to get Rickcast tomorrow night. And if I don't see you in a little bit, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell on your way out. You guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me. If I don't see you in 20 minutes, God bless. And until that day comes, hold on. Get rid of, no, I don't want Lou to be up there. And until that day comes, ladies and gentlemen, free Dexter Taylor.